That school was nothing like that television show. I moved to Los Angeles when my mother got the Jeffersons, and uh, I was 11 years old, and I went to junior high school in a place called Santa Monica on the beach, and that's where I discovered Jimi Hendrix and marijuana, and surfing and skateboarding and Led Zeppelin, and you know, and so then it was time when it was time to go to high school. The neighborhood that we lived in, the school didn't have a really great music program. So I didn't live in Beverly Hills. Everyone seems to think I lived in Beverly Hills. I was sent over to Beverly Hills to be in the music program. They had a marching band, they had jazz band, they had orchestra, they had different choirs and rock bands and musical theater, and it was quite extensive, being that they had the money, at that school. I knew Maria McKee quite well. She was in the drama department, and I used to see her a lot. And one of my friends used to play bass in her band, in her school band. And Slash, I vaguely knew. We remember each other, but it was kind of in passing, like that guy in the hallway. You know. At that point, I wasn't really seeing eye to eye with my father, and he was doing what he had to do. He was my father, but it wasn't going with my schedule of becoming a musician and being out there and playing, and so I left. I remember one night I wanted to go see Buddy Rich in concert because he was one of my favorite drummers, and my dad wouldn't let me go, so I left. That was the night I left, and I lived in I lived at different people's houses, different couches, different floors, and then when I wore that out, I rented a car that was very cheap. It was $5 a day for a Ford Escort, piece of crap, car, and I lived in that for a couple months. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any really, anything really going on. I was offered quite a few record deals at the time. One from A&M, one from Warner Brothers, a couple other labels. But they always wanted me to change my music and change what I was doing and change my look. And, we think you're talented, but, you need to do what's happening now. And I was offered, money and contracts and whatnot. And something just told me to not do it, which I don't really understand at the time how I kept from doing it, because I had nothing. And the dream was to get a record deal, and I didn't know if any others would come up. But there was just some strong thing inside of me that wouldn't allow me to do it. People thought I was crazy. I didn't get signed till I was 23, I guess. And no, that was a lot of playing for free, just so I could get studio experience. Because the main thing was that I wanted to be a studio player. I wasn't really planning on doing what I'm doing now. I used to play for other people. I'd make demos for people. I'd play all the instruments. You could hire me, for almost nothing, and I would play all the instruments and arrange your demo. And that would give me experience in the studio, and playing for free, telling people that, well, if you don't like the track, you can erase it. It doesn't cost you anything, but just anything to get into the studio. So I did a lot of that, and some theater here and there, just things to keep moving. I went and made the Let Love Rule album on my own. I wasn't signed when I made the record, and took the tape to a woman named Nancy Jeffries, who was working at Virgin at the time in Los Angeles, and through somebody, I was granted a 5-minute meeting, and I played her Let Love Rule, the song. And she then went and got this man named Jeff Aroff, who at the time was president of the label. And he then got his other partner after hearing a song, Jordan Harris, and then they took me into a back room and offered me a deal right there. It happened in 15 minutes. It was very strange after years and years of people turning you down. I mean, first of all, they told me that they didn't know if the album would sell because it wasn't like what was going on at the time on the radio, etc. And I was black and I was white and this and what am I? I'm in the middle and who's going to identify me and how are they going to market me and all that. So basically they just said, we're not going to market you. We're just going to put you out there. We're not going to have an angle. Because I didn't necessarily fit right in the rock category or right in the pop category or right in the urban category. So they just said, we'll put you out. And what they offered me was belief in the project. Because then after they offered me the deal, the guy at Warner Brothers who I'd known for years got upset and said, hey man, you're supposed to give me a shot at this when you were coming back around with your own stuff. That's the guy that I'd not taken the deal with the first time. And then Warner Brothers offered me a lot more money. But Virgin offered me the belief. And I like the fact that Jeff told me that I can't promise you it's going to sell, but I like it. And I thought that was cool. Justify My Love was a cool thing because I knew the song was for her and I knew that it was going to be number one. And I called Madonna and I said, I have this song. I didn't know her then. I got through to her and I said, I have this song for you and it's number one. And she was finishing her Immaculate Collection and it was meant to come out immediately. They were finishing the album, mastering the album. And I said, no, there's this song that's missing and this is it. It's gonna be number one. She said, yeah, go ahead, put it in. And I put it in. And when it was done, she was like, okay, we can cut this tomorrow. And it was number one. And it was her biggest hit and it was quite interesting. It was quite interesting. And then she made that video. It made me some money so that I could live a bit, and it got me a lot of attention. It's funny that it got me almost more attention than my record had at the time, because I was new. You know, who was I? I was this guy who put out a record, and then next thing I had produced Madonna, and all of a sudden people started calling me for production and so forth, which is something that I do like to do and that I do quite often, but not as often as I'd like to because of my time. Music to me has no time. Rhythm is rhythm, notes are notes, melodies, lyrics. I mean, if that's the case, if that was retro, then all music is retro, you know, because it's all been done. People just put it together in new ways. All this electronic music or beat music or whatever, that's not new. People have been doing that in Africa for, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of years, just not through, you know, electronics, you know, or in Cuba or Brazil or wherever you are, you know, I mean, so I thought it was ridiculous just because my roots were in a more classic style of rock, soul, funk, whatever. Every group has their influence. Every legend that I know, whether it be Bob Marley or Bob Dylan or the Beatles or Zeppelin or Hendrix, I could sit and talk about references and I can sit and play you songs and say, see, this is where Jimmy got this from Curtis Mayfield, or this is where Paul McCartney got this from Motown, or this is where Zeppelin got this from Willie Dixon, or this is from, I mean, you can do that with any artist. So it's just a critic sort of thing to pick apart something and say, well, this is retro, or this is that, or his influences, I can hear them. Any developing artist, I mean, we could sit and talk about Picasso and where he got his whole thing from looking at African masks and so forth, which influenced him to draw the way he drew. That's life. That's the beauty of art. You take in things that you've seen, that you love, and you add your own spirit to it, and out comes your own creation. Everybody has a beginning, you know? Sometimes I talk about these strange things that I'm thinking about and certain things that deal with God and spirituality. Maybe some people can't deal with that because that's my personal way of looking at certain situations. So maybe they might not identify with that as much. But, you know, so they're all personal to me, but it depends on how people relate to it, how big it is, or, you know, like this song Fly Away. I had no idea. I mean, that song was meant to be a B-side, and a friend of mine back in the States made me put it on the album. He made me. And I was like, no, this is just some little simple song, and that was the one. You know, people could relate to it. It was this simple lyric about wanting to escape and jump out of reality for a moment and just be free. And of course, everybody can relate to that, you know. So there's the big hit, you know. It's funny how it works. I just want to make a record and have fun making the record. That's all I wanted to do when I made Five. I had no idea what kind of record I was going to make, but the point was to have fun and have a good time. You know, the record was recorded on a digital format instead of tape, and but I still used a lot of old vintage gear and whatnot. I just didn't use tape, and that enabled me to do a lot of quick editing and experimenting and moving things around, and it was fun. But I mainly did it because I said I never would. So it was kind of time to have fun, be free, let go of any ideas that I'd had to do something I said I would never do. If you listen to all the records I've done, you know, you've got to, you know, It Ain't Over Till It's Over next to Fields of Joy and next to a ballad, next to a, you know, or Are You Gonna Go My Way, next to the song Believe or Just Be a Woman or whatever. You know, it's not, I don't usually tend to make albums that do one thing throughout. I plan to. I always say I want to do that. I want to do an album that's, you know, consistent all the way through, but I can't seem to do that. It's not my thing. I have too many moods and styles that I like to explore. The thing is, the producer that I am, I have this other Lenny over here that is examining me while I'm playing. So while I'm singing, as I'm singing a certain note or playing a certain thing, the other me is watching and says, nope, and I stop immediately. You know, it's, I'm into what I'm playing, and I'm completely absorbed in the groove, but the other side of me is watching and sees everything that's not right. You know, it's obviously cool to win a Grammy. It's another one of those things you think about when you're a kid, you know, watching the Grammys. One day maybe I'll get one, you know, and be up there. I wasn't there, but the most important thing to me was the fact that I was the first African American to win a Grammy in the rock category, and that kind of blew me away. So I was proud to accept that, not just for myself, but on behalf of all the African American artists that made rock and roll, you know. And I did this photo shoot the other day with Steve Tyler, wrapped up in an American flag, and it was like this whole thing on, you know, American rock, you know, coming back, and or I guess over here at least, from their point of view. And it was strange to be chosen, you know, to represent that American rock and roll, you know. Never thought of it like that.